The hospital corridor froze when the most feared man in the city carried his dying son in his arms, because everyone knew money could silence judges, erase crimes, and bend laws, but it could not stop whatever was slowly killing that boy. The child had been sick for months, wasting away despite the best care money could buy. His skin had turned pale and thin like paper, his eyes too large for his face, his breathing shallow and uneven. Private jets had flown him across countries. The best hospitals had opened their doors in the middle of the night. Over 100 doctors had examined him, tested him, scanned him, and studied his blood until they had nothing left to test. Each one had walked away with the same quiet defeat written on their face. No diagnosis, no answer, no cure. The boy's father was a man whose name was never spoken out loud. A man who ruled the underground world with fear and precision. A man who had destroyed lives without blinking. A man who had never been told no. Yet here he was, pacing hospital floors like a helpless stranger, watching machines breathe for his son, realizing for the first time that power meant nothing against fate. The hospital staff treated him carefully, respectfully, and nervously. Administrators bowed. Doctors spoke gently. Security doubled. Everyone knew one mistake could cost them their career or their life. But fear did not fix the child. Every day, the boy grew weaker. Every night, the father sat in a chair by the bed, staring at his son's chest rising and falling, wondering how the world could be so cruel. The case became famous among medical circles. Specialists whispered about it. Some saw it as a challenge. Others as a curse. No one wanted to admit they were lost. More tests were ordered. More scans. More theories. But nothing fit. The illness hid itself like a ghost, slipping past every textbook explanation. Then there was the janitor. He was invisible to most people. A quiet man with gray in his hair and tired eyes. He pushed his cleaning cart through the halls at night, mopping floors, emptying bins, wiping blood and sorrow from rooms where hope had died. No one knew much about him, and no one cared to ask. He was just another worker keeping the hospital clean. He had seen the boy many times. He cleaned the room after procedures. He wiped the floor where nurses had spilled saline. He noticed things others did not, because his job gave him time to observe instead of rush. He saw the boy's hands tremble in a strange rhythm. He noticed how the child's skin reacted to light. He smelled something faint on the boy's breath that reminded him of a distant memory. The janitor had lived a long life. Before cleaning floors, before wearing cheap uniforms, he had studied medicine in a small village overseas. He had never finished. War had come. His family had been lost. His papers had burned. His future had collapsed. He fled with nothing but knowledge locked inside his mind. In this new country, his degree meant nothing. Survival came first. Pride disappeared. The mop replaced the stethoscope. For years, he said nothing. Knowledge without permission was dangerous. Speaking up meant questions, proof, and exposure. He stayed silent, even when he recognized small mistakes. Even when he saw suffering that knowledge could ease. Silence kept him safe. But this child was different. The janitor felt something twist in his chest every time he saw the boy. Not fear of the father. Not worry about consequences. Just the ache of a parent watching a child fade. It reminded him of his own son, buried decades ago under a sky filled with smoke. One night, while cleaning the room, he paused longer than usual. The boy was sleeping. Machines hummed softly. The father sat nearby, exhausted. Unshaven, his eyes hollow. In that quiet moment, the janitor realized something that the machines and tests had missed. The illness was rare, unusual, easy to overlook if you had never seen it before. But he had, long ago, in a place without machines. In a place where observation meant survival. His hands shook as he considered what to do. Speaking up could cost him his job. Or worse. But staying silent meant watching a child die when he knew there might be a chance. He leaned in slightly, his voice barely more than breath, and offered 4 words that would change everything. The father looked at him like the world had stopped. At first, disbelief filled the room. Who was this man? A cleaner? A nobody? How could he know what 100 specialists did not? Anger flared, sharp and dangerous. The father had been toyed with too many times by false hope. He had paid millions for empty promises. He did not tolerate jokes about his son. Security moved closer. The air turned heavy, but desperation is stronger than pride. The father studied the janitor's face and saw no greed there. No fear either. Just quiet certainty and deep sadness. He ordered everyone to stop. He listened. The janitor explained carefully, simply, without arrogance. He pointed out signs that had been overlooked. Symptoms that did not belong to common illnesses. Reactions that only made sense when seen together. He described a condition so rare it was barely mentioned in modern training, something more common decades ago in poorer regions with specific environmental exposure. Doctors were summoned, specialists returned, skeptical but curious. Tests were repeated, this time guided by the janitor's observations. Hours passed, then silence, then urgency. For the first time in months, something showed up clearly. The diagnosis stunned everyone. The illness had been hiding in plain sight, masked by modern assumptions. The treatment was not simple, but it existed. Risky, yes, but possible. The father watched as action replaced confusion. New medications were prepared, procedures were scheduled. For the first time, hope entered the room, fragile but real. The janitor was escorted out quietly, asked to wait. Days passed. The boy did not recover overnight. Healing was slow and uncertain. There were setbacks, long nights, moments when machines screamed and hearts stopped. But the child held on. Slowly, his color returned. His breathing strengthened. His eyes opened with awareness instead of pain. The day the boy sat up on his own, the hospital staff cried openly. Doctors hugged each other. Nurses whispered prayers. Word spread quickly through the building, then through the city. The impossible had happened. The father stood at his son's bedside and wept without shame. The world had never seen him cry before. Power had taught him control, but love broke it completely. For the first time, he felt gratitude instead of dominance. He asked for the janitor. The man arrived wearing the same uniform, his hands folded, his head low. He expected nothing. Maybe dismissal, maybe silence, maybe trouble. He had done what he believed was right. Whatever came next, he would accept. The father looked at him for a long time. Not with fear, not with suspicion, but with respect. The man who owned cities, who controlled lives, who commanded armies of criminals, bowed his head to someone society ignored. The janitor was offered more money than he had ever imagined. Enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Enough to erase decades of struggle. He accepted some, but not all. He asked instead for something else. Recognition of his knowledge, the chance to help without hiding, the ability to serve openly, even if humbly. The hospital rehired him, not as a janitor, but as a consultant, not because of pressure, but because of truth. His experience saved a life. Titles no longer mattered. The father kept his word. He used his power differently after that day. Quietly, selectively, he funded clinics in poor areas. He paid for training programs. He erased debts of families drowning in medical bills. He never became a saint. But he became something closer to human. The boy grew stronger with time. Laughter returned to his voice. Color filled his cheeks. He walked the same halls where death once waited, holding his father's hand, unaware of the fear his illness had carved into a city. The janitor, now an old man with a new role, continued to walk those halls too. Not as someone invisible, but as someone remembered. Yet he remained humble. He still greeted cleaners first. He still listened more than he spoke. He knew how quickly the world could forget worth. In the end, the lesson spread quietly, without headlines or applause. Knowledge does not always wear a white coat. Wisdom does not always speak loudly. And sometimes, the person who saves a life is the one everyone walks past without seeing. Because fate has a strange sense of justice. And sometimes, salvation comes from the lowest place, just to remind the powerful that every life, no matter how small it looks, can change everything.